Everything, absolutely everything that I am doing in my life right now, I am doing because of one question that I heard about 15 years ago. And that question changed my life. I was listening to the equivalent of a podcast, but this was slightly before podcasts, about business and the reasons that we do it. And at the very end of this podcast, it was a Tony Robbins one, he asked the question, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was something like, it was words to the effect, when you're lying on your deathbed, what will matter to you? And it was almost an afterthought question at the end of this very, very long series of recordings. And it had a bigger impact on me than the whole of the rest of the thing put together. I was on a long journey. I was driving to Berlin on my own. And I just had hours to think about that question. When I'm on my deathbed, what will I care about? What will matter to me? And after several hours of thinking, the conclusion I came to was this. The only thing that will matter to me on my deathbed is knowing that my kids and any grandkids I may have by then are going to be okay. Literally. I went through lists of all kinds of other things. What have I achieved? How much have I made? Which of my dreams have come true? Yada, 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 yada. But I actually put myself into that mindset of, I know I'm in, let's say, the last hour before my time is up. And nothing, I viscerally imagined being in that moment. Or tried to imagine it. Will I care what my bank balance is? No. Will I care, in that moment, will I care about any of my own achievements or whether or not I made my dreams come true? In that moment, no. In that moment, the only thing I will care about is, are my kids okay? Are they going to be okay? Are they happy? Are they safe? Do they have a future? And even though that was 8 years before I had kids, I knew then that if and when I was lucky enough to have children, they would become pretty much the entire meaning of my life. Which at the time I remember thinking to myself, so not in a hurry then. I don't know why that makes me laugh. No rush. They're going to take over and become the entire meaning of my life. Yeah. Not quite ready for that yet. I was in my mid-30s then. Reaching that conclusion that on my deathbed, the only thing that will matter to me is the safety and happiness of my offspring and my family as a whole has guided everything I've ever done since that day, literally. And it's raised lots of other questions. For example, okay, well, if my children and my family are going to become the sole meaning of my life, what happens to my own dreams and my own ambitions, my personal, selfish ones, my own passions, my own hobbies, my own aspirations? And then the next question it raised was, and once I am a father, once I am a parent, what does that look like? How can I make sure that they are going to be okay? The conclusion that I've reached many years later is that, for me, the only workable approach to life, to find fulfillment, to be happy, to succeed in raising happy, healthy, independent children, to enjoy the process, because honestly, what is the point of life if you can't enjoy the process? But what a struggle that is. Make my own dreams come true. Yeah, the list goes on. But the upshot is this. You've got to find a single objective, a single goal, a single direction that encompasses all of it. That's what I thought I have to do. Because I am a selfish person, and I I don't want to give up on my own enjoyment of life, but I also know that now being a parent is my main job for the rest of my life. How do you make a living? How do you fund your dreams and aspirations whilst at the same time ensuring that your children have the childhood you want them to have, that you get to spend as much time with them as you want? That's never enough, is there? That you don't end up being totally overabsorbed in your work. And what it boils down to is this. I want my kids to pursue their dreams. Right? That is the shortest summary of what I want for my children. I want my children to pursue their dreams. And I choose my words carefully, because when you pursue your dreams, some will come true and some won't. But a life spent pursuing dreams is the happiest life there is, in my view. How can we expect our kids to grow up wanting to pursue their dreams if they don't see us doing the same? And so after so much thinking on this, if I want my kids to have the motivation and energy and desire to chase and follow their dreams, I have got no choice but to set that example. And the example is that you never give up. You never give up. No matter how hard it gets, you don't give up. You can't give up. Despite the challenges and the difficulty and the energy and the stamina and the relentlessness required and how hard that is, that's where fulfillment comes from. Knowing that you gave it your best. God, this has got so deep. Knowing that you gave it your best and that your kids saw you doing that. All of the children I've seen grow up, whether they're my own friends, whether they're family, whether they're nieces, nephews, everything else, I've just watched this, and children don't do what we say. They don't do what we say. They do what we do. That has a deeper impact on them. They watch us. They watch us so closely. They watch what we do. They watch what we say. They watch how we behave. And they couldn't give a stuff what we say to them. Because, and quite rightly, you have to lead by example. The meaning of life is quite literally that it is meaningless until and unless you decide to give it meaning. The meaning that I've chosen is to set the example to my kids that, provided you're okay, the coolest thing you can do with your life is to help improve other people's lives. That's the coolest thing you can do. In whatever way, shape or form suits you as an individual, in whatever scale, whether it's just one person or it's a handful of people or it's a large group or a country or the whole world, right? Whatever scale you decide. And of course it depends on whether you're fortunate enough to be in a position that you can help or not, but everyone can help somebody. Everyone can help somebody. But I don't want to tell them to do that, I don't want to tell them to do that. I want to show them. And I've been striving to do this long enough that even though I'm barely beginning to make any real headway in making a difference to other people's lives, I can already feel the fulfillment that comes from it. And some of the feedback that I've had from people who've watched my videos on moving and agents who I've helped. And I can see that it's making a real, tangible, lasting difference and actually helping improve people's lives, but primarily by helping them avoid the pitfalls that so many people end up falling into. Whatever our individual capacity is for helping other people, I think that part of the secret of finding fulfillment is not aiming too low. Oh, well, I helped 100 people. That's lots. I'm fine. No. If you're capable of helping 1,000 people and you only help 100, then there are 900 people that you could have helped and you didn't. That's not okay. I don't think. This is just my own personal life view, okay? It's incumbent upon us to help the maximum possible number of people that we can help. I mean, to give a crude example, imagine you encountered a horrible train wreck and there are countless casualties. You wouldn't just help one or two, would you? You'd help as many as you could. And why is it any different in the rest of life? If you're capable of helping other people, why wouldn't you help the very maximum possible number that you can? I need to be able to look my kids in the eye when they're older and say, I need to be able to look my kids in the eye and say, oh God, Jesus, this is like a therapy session. I've been putting this video off for so long, and this is why. I need to be able to look them in the eye and say, I couldn't have tried harder. Because that's what I want them to do. And by the way, don't think that this emotion is because I'm suffering. I am not suffering in any way, shape or form. I am, all of my hardships are self-inflicted and consciously chosen, and it's like running a marathon. That's all. It's just like the exhaustion of running a marathon. You do it on purpose. You do it because you're raising money to help other people, whatever you do it, right? But you put yourself through this hardship because that's what it takes to make a difference. If it was easy to make a difference, A, everyone would do it more, and B, there'd be nobody in hardship because everyone would be helped, right? You know, every inspirational movie we see, every film that we watch that we like is because it's triumph over adversity. That is every story, isn't it? Life is a struggle. And the most important thing, if you are struggling, is that struggle is for yourself and your family, and that you're not struggling and putting yourself through the ringer for the benefit of other people like your employers. Yes, struggle to help other people out, of course. But I see too many people putting themselves through hell out of loyalty to an employer from whom they get nothing back other than their paycheck. And I see people just exhausting themselves. It's taken me a very long time to say, basically, I'm working hard to set a good example to my kids. My mission, as I've stated a number of times, is a home for everyone. Another way of putting it could be to solve the housing crisis. Another way of putting it could be ending homelessness. My mission is to try and help facilitate that. Not even the government can do it on their own, right? No company can do it on their own. But what we all have the chance to do and to be is to be a catalyst that leads to the solving of these problems. If it's achievable, why hasn't it been achieved? And what are the barriers in the way and how do we remove them? The basic premise of my whole approach to this is that the property industry, the residential property industry, the home moving industry has the resources, the reach, the influence, the power, the connections, but apparently not the desire to lean into the housing crisis and solve it. In fact, my position is that it is the vested interests within the home moving industry that are the leading cause of the housing crisis. Now, that's quite a deep statement. I'm not saying that anyone's doing it on purpose, and I'm not saying that anyone even knows that they're doing it. I don't think they do. But vested interests of the companies and of the shareholders of the most powerful and influential and wealthy businesses in the home moving sector are the barrier. The owners of Rightmove, which is arguably the most financially powerful company in the moving sector, do not care about the UK housing problem. Why should they care? They are mostly owned by American hedge funds. The people administering those hedge funds care about the returns they give their investors. The people administering those hedge funds are the ones who've bought the shares into Rightmove and Zoopla, which is 100% owned by one American fund. So we have the two arguably most powerful companies in the home moving sector who are owned by people, not run by people. This is not a criticism of the people running those businesses, because the people running those businesses are carrying out the wishes of the owners of those companies, right? But the owners of those companies do not care one iota about the UK's housing crisis. And it's not their job to care, because there's no one person making the decision. It's the collective effect of a number of hedge funds who've decided to buy controlling interest in Rightmove, who are only concerned about the return they get. That's their only concern. So you go and look at Rightmove's annual reports, and you see that they make over £200 million profit, clear profit, £200 million profit a year. You think, oh wow, okay, that's a lot of money and interest and influence. How are they using it for good? Nothing. Basically nothing. And Zoopla, I mean, they both do, like, you know, they tick the charity box. They do small amounts for charity. They support their stuff. But in the context of their size, their influence, their power, etc., they do nothing. And worse than that, the way their businesses operate feed into the worsening of the problem of the moving industry. I won't go into that in this video. It's a long and detailed one. I will do another video on that, I hope, to explain it, because this is why I've launched Best Agent, because I own Best Agent. Nobody else does. I own it without any investors for this reason. Because as the owner of Best Agent, my number one goal, mission, objective, you name it, to tip the scales back the other way and allow the living conditions for people in the UK to improve. And only if that happens will Best Agent make any money. Don't get me wrong, I'm not pretending to be some saint here who doesn't want to make money. I want to make a lot of money. I would like to earn enough money to fulfill my own personal goals and aspirations and dreams, as well as my children's and my family's ones, okay? My hobby is flying seaplanes, okay? I'm a member of the Seaplane Pilots Association. I'm also 50 years old, which is the same age as the Seaplane Pilots Association by complete coincidence. And one of my dreams, which overlaps with my parenting dream, is to travel the world in a seaplane with my family. But I'm a pilot, I can fly seaplanes, it's my hobby, it's what I've been working on for the last 15 years or so. But I'm not going to get to do that unless Best Agent succeeds in making a difference, in improving people's lives. My other big passion is filmmaking. I mean, I'm an amateur, I'm a hobbyist. I've made one short film so far, a half an hour feature. I've written a feature film that I want to get made, but I want to do it without investors, because investors derail everything. I've been in the sector that I'm in, which is providing technology and marketing services to the residential property industry, for over 20 years. And with one exception, every single investor and partner I've ever had has derailed my objectives and my goals to make a difference. They've said, well, hang on, that's not how it's done. It's done like this. And my point is, no, the way it's done now is the fucking problem. If we carry on doing it the same as everyone else, nothing gets changed. Oh yes, but we'll make money. If I just wanted to make money, there are easier ways to do it. And I have never managed to get investors to see straight. So the investors have they have muzzled me. They have stopped me making public criticism of big companies that are doing bad things. I don't want to be muzzled by anybody or silenced or censored. I want to be able to call out the bad conduct where I see it happening that's affecting people's ability to move. I don't want anyone silencing me when I want to talk about the problems that I'm aiming to solve, because they're worried about the value of their shares. And by the way, that one guy who was the exception, who was just amazing and didn't care about getting money back, he just wanted to help make a difference, he died. So and he was a hugely powerful. This guy was a guy who'd made it himself from the very, very bottom. He had gone from being a school-leaving junior in the tea room to European chairman of one of the world's biggest, most famous companies. He got there purely on merit. He was one of my early investors. And I remember once saying to him, "Oh, I'm really sorry, it's taking a long time for you to get any money back." And he laughed and said to me, "Charlie, I don't need any money. I don't want any money back. I'm too old and have too much money to care about getting money back. I'm here to help you make a difference." And through him, I got to go to these extraordinary private dinners behind closed doors where there were people from incredible organizations giving after dinner talks. You know, it's like peeping behind the curtain and into the real power of what goes on in life. And he was taking me there. He was inviting me as his guest to a lot of these places and dinners, showing me how the world works behind the scenes. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And that's why I have no investors in Best Agent. Because I've not yet been able to find another investor who cares more about making a difference to other people than he does about making more money. Every investor I talk to, I'm going to get quite passionate and pissed off now. Because this is a massive reason that the world is in the shit state that it's in. This investor myopia, this investor blindness, this investor delusion, I don't know what you want to call it, but there's a very famous Silicon Valley investor. He was a PayPal founder and he now runs Palantir, which is one of America's biggest security businesses. It's cool. It's a multi-billion-dollar company. He's called Peter Thiel, Thiel, and he wrote a book called 0 to 1. And in that book, he talks about how well over 90% of investors are just not very clever. Think they are because they've got spare money to invest and think that puts them into the we're quite clever category, but they just don't get it. And he lists the reasons why. And I read that book and I thought to myself, I'm not going mad. It's not just me. They really are this short-sighted. And his book was about how, unless you find one of the ones that does get it, just don't deal with investors. And the problem is that all the ones that I've met so far have gone, "I know, we totally get it, we get it." And so, I get approaches on probably a weekly basis of investors wanting to talk to me about Best Agent, of people wanting to, and it's always the same blowing sunshine up your arse, like, "Wow, it's really cool what you're doing, it's really cool." And I've had data companies talk to me about it as well, because they know about the value of the data on a website that might end up becoming something that competes in the space that Rightmove and Zoopla on the market are in. And I say to the people introducing me, please, I don't have any time to waste going over this same old stuck record of listening to an investor telling me that they do care about social change and then finding out that they fucking don't. Not enough to actually, and the stupid thing is that these guys are used to making investments where there's a 90% chance of failure, which means the money they're investing is money that they can afford to lose, which means if you can afford to lose the money, why don't you put your 90% inaccurate anyway requirements to one side about what you think you need to meet your investment criteria, and just throw caution to the wind like the old A&R cigar smoking bosses of the music industry used to do, which is, this guy seems cool, let's give it a go and roll the dice, and not go through fucking accounting and spreadsheets and go, "Oh, well, this, that, and the other, and metrics, blah, blah, blah," which 90% fail you anyway. And just go, yeah, Wouldn't it be cool to make that difference? And if we did make the difference, we'd make a fuck ton of money anyway. But these guys would appear to only exist in the US. And in the US, they're not that interested in investing in UK businesses. Or Portuguese businesses, which is where my company is based, in Portugal. Which leaves me in the position that I'm in, where I have bootstrapped Best Agent from the ground up on my own. I have literally poured every penny and every moment of my life, one way or another, directly but sometimes indirectly, into making Best Agent what it is today and what I hope it's going to become. Which means I've done it chronically underfunded. But nevertheless, I've built what is already the biggest and most advanced piece of tech in the industry. Warts and all that it still has, wrinkles still to iron out, but it is there. It's why I've had unbelievably tempting offers of investment that I've come very close to considering, and ultimately it's always the same, which is, no, I will be giving away the power I currently have, which is to stop short-sighted investors from derailing what I'm trying to do because of their own agendas. I'm risking everything I have, my family's future, all of my time, and rolling the dice that what I'm doing has the best chance of improving the most number of lives by creating a business that ends up having enough influence and power in the moving sector that we can start to force a change in the way it currently operates. A little bit like Tesla forced all other car manufacturers to start making electric cars when they had, until Tesla came along, had been saying, no, we can't, it won't work, it doesn't stack up, no one's going to buy them. How do we overcome the vested interest resistance to Best Agent that there is within the industry from everyone who feels that their businesses are going to be threatened? Well, the only way to do that is by just beginning in a small way, a change in how movers behave. Because if enough movers start using Best Agent to find their home and to find their agent, then no matter how much agents do or don't like it, they will not turn their back on business opportunities, and they will eventually engage with it. But in the first instance, we only need, by my calculations, 15% roughly of agents, which is roughly 3 agents per town or per postcode or borough, whatever you want to call it. And that 15%, 3 out of 20, is enough to tip the scales. So what I've got to accomplish simultaneously is more and more people looking for their home and for their agent on Best Agent, and more agents actually engaging with Best Agent. In other words, responding to the leads and buying leads if they want them. Don't buy them if you don't want them. And this isn't the video where I'm going to go into explain exactly how Best Agent works, because there's so many subtle differences to how everything else is out there currently works. But it's basically this. It's the elimination of all the trickery, the removal of all the gaming that currently happens that leads to the terrible experience most movers currently have. We get a small handful of agents threatening legal action because of the way that we list all agents' properties in the whole country. And a couple of them have said to me, well, why are you listing our properties without our permission? Okay, first of all, it's no different to a search engine indexing website data. So it's completely legal. It's not illegal at all. But that's not the reason. Obviously, I wouldn't be investing my whole life's work into something that was illegal, because that would obviously get it derailed very fast. It is legal. It might piss agents off, and it pisses some agents off. It tends to piss off. I get why agents are pissed off with this, because in the past, they have had their data abused and exploited by Rightmove. I mean, Rightmove and Zoopla charge, and on the market, charge estate agents to list on their websites and then monetize their data. So they are, in my view, parasitic businesses on the moving industry. Okay, the way that they charge agents to list on those portals is parasitic, because it encourages the game that we all currently suffer from, where moving is a fucking nightmare. And the two reasons that we have to have all properties there is because unless you have more homes for sale in one place than the other players, the movers aren't going to come to a new site. This is why every other attempt in the past to dislodge Rightmove from the number one spot has failed. Okay? The other sites don't have as much property. That's it. That's the bottom line. So that's why we have to list. Okay, well then, why don't you ask all of us permission? Well, there are 25,000 businesses. And what do we have to have? The same conversation 25,000 times where you go, well, actually, no, and actually we can list it anyway and don't need the permission. It's a silly, futile, expensive, time-consuming exercise that just leads to failure. I mean, that's why On the Market failed. Okay? Because asking agents permission for it. It would be nice, of course, but it would take several years and cost millions of pounds, and agents would have to pay for it. So it doesn't make any sense. Just to satisfy the egos of those agents that care about this. Because we are not monetizing your data unless you choose to buy leads from us. And you won't buy the leads if they aren't good leads at a fair price. And if they are good leads at a fair price, then don't we deserve? And if we're giving you an alternative future to the current one where you're being rinsed, fleeced and bled out by the current system, it's a win-win. It's a win-win for good agents and good movers. The second reason is, if we had to ask permission from agents, it would allow agents who don't want Best Agent to succeed to completely derail our progress. So in other words, it would allow vested interests to stop Best Agent if we didn't list all properties on the website. It doesn't make any sense to open ourselves up to being stopped by current vested interest. No difference will be made. So is this going to ruffle some feathers? Yeah. Was anything in the world ever changed without that happening? No, not that I know of. So that's why we are unapologetically listing all agents' properties for sale and to let, because it's public data, it's not breach of copyright. And without doing that, there's no chance of creating a viable competitor.